Hello and welcome to another Makios Cloud Files tutorial. Today we'll be looking at sharing and guest accounts. We'll be looking at team shares, public shares, secure shares. We're also going to be looking into creating guest accounts, managing our shares, and also picking the correct shares. First thing we're going to go ahead and do is get logged in. Now, those of you who saw the second tutorial, which was the files tutorial, you should already be familiar with these files here. What I'm going to go ahead and do is click on the shares tab. Now here in the shares tab, you'll see that we do not have any team shares. So team shares are created for internal sharing. These are shares that you could set up with people within your organization. So I went ahead and created a second test account, so we are able to create a team share with that test account. I'm going to go ahead and proceed with creating the team share and sharing it with that second test account. So I'm going to go ahead and create a team share. We're going to call it a test share. Now, once the team share is created, it is going to ask us who you want to add to that team share. Now, in this case, you're only able to add people within your organization. And what that means is that every company within the Makios Cloud Files does not recognize any other. So they are standalone. You are not able to see anybody else within the Makios Cloud Files. And in other words, it's like you're a company of your own. If you do not have any people within your organization within Makios Cloud Files, you will not be able to create team shares with anybody. In that case, you will use an external share. So I'm going to go ahead and add that second test. Now you're going to see that we've added that. We're going to go ahead and go back to the shares, and we're going to see our team share there. Now, the other users can't manage it because you created the share, so they won't have the option to delete the share or to add and remove users. They'll only be able to browse those files. So we're going to go ahead and expand the options here. Now, the daily email digest, it will pretty much just send you an email of everything that's changed within that team share. That's completely up to you. That's something you can enable. Now, the second option here, you're going to see that it says MacBook Pro. Now, I'm running on a Mac, and if you recall also from the second tutorial, we went ahead and installed the local sync agent. Now, once I did that, the Makios Cloud Files now detects my computer. So if I turn this on, what this will do, it actually download that team share down to my local sync agent. So by default, it's already off, but I can enable it if I prefer. So for this test, I'm going to go ahead and enable it. That way we can take a look at that. So if we go back to our files tab, you're going to see that the team share is there, and you can see that it's a team share by the icon. Now, I could go ahead and go in here and create a folder. We'll go ahead and call it test. Sorry about that. All right. So now that we have our folder here created, I'm going to go ahead and log out. And I'm going to go ahead and log in into the second test account. And we'll go ahead and say that password. That's fine. Now we see our team share here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and open this team share, and we're going to see that test folder in there. So now this is pretty much, as I said before, how you would share files within your organization. Now if I go back to shares, you'll notice that the team share is here as well. And as said before, they can only browse that share. They cannot delete or add or remove people. Okay? They can also get a daily email digest. But as said before, this is off by default as well. This is just a preference. If you would like to do that, that's fine. You could go ahead and enable it, and you will receive that email. Now I'm going to go ahead and log out, and I'm going to log in back into our first test account. All right, so at this point, we've already created a team share, and the next share we're going to go ahead and do is going to be an external share. We do have two options. We could go ahead and create a public share or a secure share. A secure share would require a guest account. What I'm going to go ahead and do is right-click on this documents folder, and we're going to go ahead and click share. Now, after doing this, we're going to get our sharing options. And as mentioned before, we do have two options, a public share and a secure share. Now, a public share is pretty straightforward. The recipient of the share, which you can specify down here with share with, will receive this hyperlink. This hyperlink, of course, they could just click on it, and it's going to send them over to the Makios Cloud Files, and at that point, they're going to be able to download the file. there are no permissions that you could set when you do a public share. Now, if you do a secure share, at that point, you could go ahead and specify a couple permissions. In this case, they would have to log in the Makios cloud files to be able to retrieve those files. Now, we're going to go ahead and do a test of that here shortly, but I just wanted to explain a little bit what the public share does. Now, you do have an option to set an expiration date. You can set an expiration date for, let's say we shared the file today. We want to make sure that, the user who's getting this file receives it by tomorrow. We could just give them a call, let them know, hey, you know what? This is only going to be available until tomorrow. Please download it before then. It's a way to keep everything clean pretty much. Now, I do not have anybody that we could send this public share to at the moment for testing purposes, but we're going to go ahead and proceed with creating a secure share. So the way that I'm going to proceed first is that instead of creating it directly from here, I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and I'm going to go back to my files. Now, while doing this, I'm going to go ahead and click on this guest tab here, and I'm going to create a guest. Now, I'm going to go ahead and type in, let's say, test guest, and the email address is going to be guest@makios.com. For the password, I'm just going to set something generic. And we're going to go ahead and create that there. I'm not going to save the password at the moment. We're going to go back to our shares. And I'm going to hit here, item share by you. In this case being me, since I had already hit or right-clicked on that documents, it tried to share it. Unfortunately, it's not sharing it with anybody because I did not specify share with anybody. So at this point, I'm going to hit share there. As you saw, I'm going to hit share with. I'm going to type in test guest in. There we go. Now, since this is a guest account, now I do have a couple different options. If I do a public share, I would not have upload or delete options here. So I'm just going to specify at the moment that they could upload to that folder, okay? So I'm going to hit save on this. I'm going to go back to my files, and I'm going to log out. Now I'm going to go ahead and log in as a test, or the guest account in this case. Hit not now, and we can see here, welcome, your active shares are displayed below. We only have one share. Now I'm going to hit on that folder, and we're going to see that all the files within that folder are there as well. So this is basically how you do a secure share. Now here, of course, we do have a couple options. They could download as a zip. They could create a folder, upload files, since we did give them that access. We gave them those permissions. If they try to delete something, they can't. If we right-click any of these, they can't delete anything. So that's a way for you to create a secure share with an external user. You do not need to, have them sign up for the service or anything like that, as other file cloud services would do. Ours is pretty straightforward and lets you do what you need to get done without too much hassle. So I'm going to go ahead and log back in here. And now, just for testing purposes, I'm going to go ahead and provide them delete access. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and save that. We're going to go ahead and log in as a guest. Now it tells us we do have delete access, and we're just going to confirm that. And now we are able to delete. So this is the way that you would do a secure share. Now, going back to the initial objectives, picking the correct share. Now, it's pretty straightforward. If you need to, share internally, you will definitely pick a team share. Now, if you need to, share externally, you do have an option whether to select the public or the secure. Now, if it's someone you work with very regularly, the best option for you is going to be a secure share. Of course, this is HIPAA compliant, so that's the best way to go. And if you want to be secure as possible, a guest account is the best way to go. Now, if it's a one-time share that you're doing with a local vendor or anything like that, a public share will do as well. The upside about this is, you're unable most times to send large files through email as attachments. I mean, this is a great way to share files with external users that you might need to speak to, or send large attachments to. This is a great service for that. Now, creating guest accounts is pretty straightforward. You do not have a limit. You can create as many as you want. All right, so we have covered team shares, public shares, and the secure shares up to this point. We also already talked about creating the guest accounts and a little bit about picking the correct shares. Now, managing the shares overall. If you do have a team share that is being shared with you or that is being shared by you, if you go to the shares tab, you can see here your team shares, items shared by you, and again, items shared with you. Now, the items shared with you, you would normally see this here if somebody is sharing a team share with you. Now, you will also see them under team shares. So you could pretty much manage them from either of those two places as well. If you do have a team share, you will also see it within your file. So you do have a couple of different places where you can manage those team shares. As far as shares that you're sharing externally, whether it's a public or if it's a secure share, you will always see them under shared by you. Here you could always see how many times they were viewed, how many times it was downloaded, and of course if you set any expirations, you will see them here as well. If you go ahead and expand this here, you can see every person that you're sharing with. And also, if you click on this link here, you will pretty much see everything as they see it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and this is their view as we've seen before. So I'm going to go ahead and go back, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this share since we no longer need it. We have pretty much covered that basis. I'm going to go ahead and go over to the guest accounts, and as mentioned before, you do not have a limit on the guest accounts that you create, so you could create one pretty much for everybody that you need. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one as well. One thing that I did do before, which we haven't covered, is I did make this team share available offline on my MacBook Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and open the local Makios Cloud Files folder, and we're going to see my team share here. Now at this point, again, I could go ahead and create as many folders as I need to here. I can migrate data as we covered on the second tutorial, the files tutorial, and we pretty much have everything here that we need. We could also, from the local Makios Cloud Files folder, we could actually right click this as well and share it. You'll see the same tool, share link, and this will automatically open up a web browser and provide us our sharing options. The only downside is, in order to create a guest account, you have to do it from the web UI. Now, if you create a secured share, it will create a guest account automatically when you specify a secure share. The only difference is that through the web UI, you can specify their full name and a specific static password. If you create it through the secure share, you will not be able to do that. They'll actually receive an email with the link to access Makios Cloud Files, and it will provide them their credentials. And of course, those credentials are going to be self-generated from the system. At this point, we can say can upload, can delete, anything that we prefer, and we're going to go ahead and hit save. Now, once we hit save, and if we go back to our shares, shared by you, it's being shared. This will automatically create a guest account for you, as you see here. And up to this point, we have covered everything that is available for us in sharing and guest accounts. We will be covering backups on the next tutorial, and the following after that we'll be covering a little bit about file reporting, activity log. That will be a quick video on that. And I thank everybody for joining me for this third tutorial, and have a great day.